A New Hope, Nier Chapter 169 Fanfiction by Azazyel. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel for listening and patreon.com/Azazyel to read all of his stories. The Carian Bloodline in Radahn and Ranni were clearly nervous around me, as it was clear that I was no longer a mortal. I was quite literally a god now with the Elden Ring within my soul. But I could also gain more power if I finished collecting the other shards of the Elden Ring that were out there. But I wasn't in a rush. Destined Death wasn't going to go anywhere, and the Mohglester wasn't a threat buried deep in the ground, well aware of anything of note. I formed a mirror of ice in front of myself, and I gave a slight hum as I took in how my now clearly glowing golden eyes contrasted with my dirty blonde hair. Well, this is certainly going to give everyone back home a good shock, I mused. And I realized that also with how much my power had grown, to say nothing of my elevated existence, I could also probably go back to the near Earth. If I wanted to anyway, not that I had a reason with how I had pulled out all the Yoarha and resistance androids to Remnant. Pray tell, what happens now? Ranni asked slowly as I dismissed the mirror of ice. To that, I looked over at the shattered corpse of Marika the Eternal that was still radiating its own divinity. Well, in truth, I am thinking about reviving Marika and making her Rennala and my maid. Beyond that, I will be retrieving Destined Death, and then I will be leaving this world with Rennala and you all if you would accept that. My words were directed at Radahn, Ranni, and Melina, with the three going into quiet contemplation as Rennala came over to me and I blinked as she gently cupped my cheeks within her hands to gaze down at me with her advantage of height. I would rather you just bury Marika and leave her tail behind alongside this broken world. No matter how much petty joy I would feel for being able to lord over her, she would inevitably bring issues with her pride and power. I gave a slight hum and then I nodded in her hands, as I had already decided that male Nia was too much of a hassle to deal with as well. So Marika could also be added to the waste not, want not pile. As Marika still had a good deal of power tied in her soul and corpse, seeing as the rune of Destined Death was still bound. So she could still be revived without too many issues anyway. But if Rennala thought that Marika was too much trouble, and to be honest she was probably right, then it would be for the best if, using my phazon, I just consume her, to add her remaining divinity to my own. And as Rennala let go of my face, I looked her straight in her light blue eyes and asked with a teasing smile, "When will our wedding be, Rennala? I have become the Elden Lord, and I need my consort." Rennala's face pinked with Radahn huffing and Ranni squawking in outrage before Rennala took a breath and spoke quietly. I have already spoken with the pastor of vows in Miriel. It would not be a beautiful wedding, but he promises to join us together. I gave Rennala a long look and I had a bit of a thing for MILFs, as was evident by my drunk booty calling of Salem that kinda made my RWBY adventure a bit weird. So I nodded, as I knew Rennala did love me with how I had messed with her head to break her mind of the obsession she had over the amber egg that held the shard of the Elden Ring. "Whenever you are ready," I spoke calmly. But before I could continue, A2 called out in amusement, "Jake, if you get married for the first time and not have several pods recording it, Commander White will string me up." To that, I brushed a hand across my face and I felt a shudder run through me at the thought of Salem and Weiss's reaction as well. "Welp, good thing I was immortal now. Rennala, are you ready to go?" I asked as I opened up a portal, as I knew that this was going to be very much an informal affair. What with literally every church being utterly destroyed during the War of the Shattering. And to my question, Rennala took my hand into her own, smiling softly and saying softly, I will carry thy burdens and stand beside you no matter the world we go towards." I looked over towards Rennala's children with Radahn shrugging and saying bluntly, "I am waiting for you to move Leonard's soul into a new body. And my sister needs a new body that isn't her shadow's childhood chew toy." Then as my eyes landed on Ranni, I saw on her dull face a frown in her eyes before she sighed and spoke. "Thou art the Elden Lord, bearer of the Elden Ring. You are the best man for my mother in truth. So I will not gainsay you at this time." To which I replied with an eye roll, "Ranni, you are truly a doll." And then I widened the portal as I held Rennala's hand and I pulled us towards the Church of Vows. It was time for me to properly get married after all.